Hey there, thrill seekers, history fanatics, and anyone currently regretting their life choices. Tonight, you'll step into a different kind of history. Forget marble palaces or grand senatorial halls. We're diving into the blood-soaked sand, the iron bars, and the echoing corridors beneath the arena. You'll live the life of a Roman gladiator, from your first day in chains to your last step onto the killing ground. You'll train, bleed, fight, and perform, not for glory, but for the fleeting applause of a crowd that never remembers your name. If this kind of storytelling helps you rest, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you a bit of peace. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is right now. It's strangely comforting to see who else is drifting off to the same quiet story. So, dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft background hum, settle in, and let's begin. At the moment, you lose your freedom. You do not remember the first time you heard the word gladiator. Perhaps it was shouted from a street corner in some distant market square, carried on the scent of roasting meat and fresh olives, a tale told by a man with too much wine and too few teeth. Or perhaps it was a whisper in a soldier's tent as spoils were counted and prisoners chosen, a casual remark tossed out as casually as one might discuss the weather. You didn't know then that the word would one day define your existence. It is strange, in a way, how little control a man can have over his own life. One moment you are free, a soldier perhaps, or a farmer, or merely an unlucky soul caught on the wrong side of Rome's endless thirst for conquest. The next, you are shackled, your wrists rubbed raw by iron that does not care if you are noble or common, brave or cowardly. You are cargo now, a thing to be bought, used, and discarded. You have travelled far. The sun here burns differently, glaring down upon a city that seems to pulse with wealth and cruelty in equal measure. The streets of Rome stretch before you, crowded with citizens dressed in brilliant white togas and poor souls in threadbare tunics. You see children darting between market stalls, vendors hawking dates and fish and bolts of purple cloth. Somewhere in the distance laughter rings out from a tavern. It is a city alive with sound and ambition, and none of it has any place for you. The market where you are taken is not the kind where respectable Romans shop for olive oil or garum. This is the slave market, tucked behind the grander forums and the temples gleaming with marble. Here, men and women are displayed like livestock, their value assessed not in talent or virtue, but in the strength of their limbs and the health of their teeth. You stand with a group of fellow captives, the stink of fear and sweat hanging thick in the air. Some cry openly, others stare blankly ahead. A few, the ones who have perhaps seen too much already, wear an expression of grim resignation. You try to hold yourself steady, though your knees ache and your stomach is hollow with hunger. Days in transit have left you gaunt and dirty, your hair matted with dust. The auction begins. A stout man with a booming voice strides to the front, barking out prices as buyers stroll past. One by one, your fellow captives are dragged onto a crude wooden platform and turned this way and that, as if they were cuts of meat at a butcher's stall. Muscles are squeezed, teeth are inspected, old scars prodded. You watch a wiry man with haunted eyes sell for a pitiful sum. A young woman weeps as she is claimed by a leering merchant. Then it is your turn. Rough hands shove you forward. You climb onto the platform, blinking against the midday glare. Below you, a crowd of buyers mutters and murmurs, eyes flitting over your frame. You are stripped of the remnants of your clothing, left standing naked before them all. The humiliation burns hotter than the sun. You remind yourself not to flinch, not to look away. Show weakness here, and your price will plummet, and with it, any hope of surviving what lies ahead. A man steps forward from the throng. He is tall, broad of shoulder, his tunic dyed a rich crimson. Around his neck hangs a chain of gold, and at his side is a short staff, the mark of a lanista, a trainer and owner of gladiators. You've heard of such men. They run the ludus, the grim schools where fighters are shaped into tools of blood and spectacle. To be bought by such a man is no mercy. It means a life of training, pain, and the endless roar of the amphitheatre. The Lannister gestures to the auctioneer. They speak in low tones, glancing your way. He inspects you himself, gripping your arms, thumping your chest, forcing your mouth open to peer at your teeth. You meet his gaze, hoping to project some measure of strength. He grunts, apparently satisfied. A price is agreed upon. You are sold. Iron shackles are fastened once more around your wrists, and you are led away from the market, past streets teeming with life. You catch snatches of conversation, talk of politics, of the latest military victories, of the upcoming games. Oh yes, the games, someone says. Word is there will be a great spectacle next month. Lions and gladiators, and no shortage of blood. The words sink deep into your gut. The Lannister's slaves march you through a heavy iron gate into the courtyard of the Ludus. This is to be your new home, though calling it such feels like mockery. The walls loom high, topped with iron spikes to deter escape. Within the compound, men of every hue and origin toil and sweat beneath the gaze of armed guards. Some train with wooden swords against straw dummies. Others spar beneath the harsh commands of drill masters. The scent here is a pungent blend of sweat, leather, and old blood. You're taken first to the scribes, who record your name, or what passes for it now. Many captives lose even that small piece of identity, given instead a new name chosen by their owner, a name that will look good on posters and thrill the crowd. You may be lucky and keep your old name. You may be reborn as Scaevola or Spiculus, or some other moniker meant to sound suitably fearsome. Either way, the man you were is gone. Next comes branding. You're forced to kneel as a hot iron is pressed to your thigh. The searing pain eclipses all else, and the scent of your own burning flesh nearly makes you retch. The mark identifies you as property of this particular ludus, a thing to be returned if lost, a thing that can be replaced. Finally, you are shown to your cell. It is a narrow stone chamber, scarcely large enough to stretch out in. The floor is cold, the air damp. A thin straw pallet and a coarse blanket are your only comforts. Still, you are too exhausted to care. You collapse upon the straw, your body aching from days of travel in the fresh torment of the brand. Sleep does not come easily. The sounds of the ludus seep through the walls. The clash of wooden swords, the bark of orders, the low moans of the wounded. Somewhere nearby, a man sobs softly. You wonder who he was and what path led him here. You wonder the same about yourself. In the morning, training begins. You are hauled from your cell before the sun has fully risen, thrust into a yard where a grim-faced drill master awaits. His voice is rough from years of shouting, his gaze cold as iron. He wastes no time. You are handed a wooden sword and told to fight. Not well, not bravely, but precisely. Every movement is dissected. Every mistake earns a blow from his staff. The training ground is a pitiless place. You learn to march in formation, to lunge and parry, to anticipate the movements of an opponent. The wooden sword feels awkward at first, its weight unfamiliar, but muscle memory comes with repetition and the certainty that failure means punishment. Already, you see the results upon the bodies of your fellow trainees. Bruises dark as wine, welts across backs and arms, noses broken and left to heal crooked. There is little respite. Meals are brief and uninspiring. Thick barley porridge with occasional scraps of meat or dried fruit, meant to fuel the body, not delight the palate. You eat in silence, wary of the guards and your fellow gladiators alike. Trust is a luxury here, and friendship can swiftly turn to betrayal when the arena demands it. At night, you return to your cell, muscles trembling with exhaustion. You tend your bruises as best you can using what little cloth and water is available. The thought creeps in, unbidden. How many days will pass before you are deemed ready for the arena? How many nights will you spend in this stone coffin dreading the dawn? And yet, a strange thing happens as days blur into weeks. Your body begins to harden. The wooden sword no longer feels so foreign in your grip. Your feet learn to dance across the sand, your eyes to read the stance of an opponent. The bruises remain, but the pain dulls, or perhaps you simply grow used to it. The drill master watches you closely. You cannot tell whether he sees promise in you, or merely another body to be flung into the pit. But you fight harder, train longer, not out of loyalty or pride, but because survival depends upon it. One evening, as the sun dips low and the shadows lengthen, you overhear a conversation between two veteran fighters. "The games are coming soon," one says, voice low. "A dozen new men to be sent in. Few will last a day," without asking that you will be among them. And so you lie upon your straw that night, staring at the cracked ceiling of your cell. The word Gladiator echoes in your mind. Not a story, not a boast, not a distant spectacle, but a fate you cannot escape. The crowd will soon roar for your blood, and you will have no choice but to give it. The first lesson you learn in the Ludus is this: your body is not your own. It belongs to the Lanista now, and by extension to the crowd. You may think of yourself as a man, but the daily routine here will soon teach you otherwise. You are a tool, to be sharpened, displayed and broken for the amusement of others. Whether you live or die is a secondary concern, provided you entertain. Your days begin long before the sun rises. In the darkness of your cell, you stir at the sound of iron keys turning in the heavy lock. The door creaks open, and a guard's voice, coarse from too many years spent barking orders, jolts you fully awake. "Out now!" The drill master waits. You swing your legs off the straw pallet, muscles already protesting. Sleep was fitful at best. The cold stone beneath your blanket seemed to seep into your bones. Your shoulder throbs from yesterday's blow with a wooden staff, a correction as the drill master called it. You bite back a groan. Pain is expected here. Complaining about it is not. Stepping into the corridor, you join the line of fellow gladiators in training. Some are fresh, like you, eyes wide and limbs uncertain. Others bear the hardened expressions of men who have seen the inside of the amphitheatre and returned. They do not speak. They march in grim silence toward the training yard, each step measured, each glance wary. The yard itself is a harsh expanse of packed dirt, encircled by high stone walls. Wooden posts, scarred from countless strikes, stand like skeletal trees, targets for thrusts and slashes. To one side, racks of training weapons await. Wooden swords, heavy shields, and blunted-edged daggers. On the far end stands the drill master, a broad-shouldered brute with arms like tree trunks and a face that looks as though it was carved from granite. His eyes sweep over the gathered men with a mixture of disdain and grim amusement. "Form ranks," he bellows. "You are here to fight, not to shuffle like old women." You move quickly to obey. Hesitation earns only one thing here: pain. The drill master carries a stout wooden staff, worn smooth from years of use, not for demonstration, but for striking. You have already seen men doubled over from its blows, ribs cracked beneath its merciless arc. The staff does not discriminate. Tall or short, strong or weak, it punishes all who falter. Training begins with footwork. You're taught to move in the sand with balance and speed, not the clumsy stomping of a brawler, but the measured steps of a dancer. At first, it feels unnatural. Your feet drag, you stumble. A sharp crack across your thigh reminds you to correct your posture. Pain is a swift instructor. Next come the drills. You are paired with another trainee and handed a wooden sword, a rudis. Deceptively simple in appearance, its weight is intended to build strength, heavier than the real gladius you will one day wield in the arena. You are shown the basic strikes: overhead slash, thrust to the belly, cut to the thigh. Each movement must be precise. Sloppiness is punished with a jab of the staff or a derisive shout. "Again!" the drill master commands. "And again!" You will do this until your arms fall off, and then you will use your teeth. You lose count of the repetitions. Sweat pours from your brow, stinging your eyes. Your grip slips. Blisters bloom upon your palms. When you falter, the staff finds your ribs. "Hold it like a man, not a fishwife," the drill master sneers. You grit your teeth and press on. Between drills, you glimpse the veterans sparring at the far end of the yard. Their movements are swift, fluid, a deadly dance honed by countless hours of practice. They strike with controlled ferocity, eyes locked, bodies coiled like serpents. You watch with a mixture of awe and dread. These are the men who survive in the arena. You wonder if you will ever match their skill, or if you will die before the chance. When the sun reaches its zenith, the drill master calls a brief halt. You are herded toward a shaded corner, where large earthen jars of water await. You drink greedily, the cool liquid a rare comfort. Beside the jars sits a large wooden trough filled with barley porridge, thick, coarse, and utterly joyless. Hordiari, they call you behind your backs. Barley men. It is not a compliment. The diet of a gladiator is designed to build bulk and endurance, not pleasure. The palate, barley porridge, beans and occasional scraps of meat, forms the staple fare. Fresh fruit is a rarity. Wine, if given, is watered down to the point of insult. The aim is to keep you strong, not happy. As you eat, you overhear snatches of conversation. A veteran speaks in low tones to another. 2 days more, and they send us to the arena. New batch of Germans, I hear. Should be a fine slaughter. The words chill you more than the morning air. You are not yet ready. No one ever is. After the brief meal, training resumes. Now the focus shifts to defense. You are handed a heavy wooden shield and taught the art of blocking and parrying. The shield strains your already aching arms. The drill master demonstrates with cruel efficiency, striking from angles you failed to anticipate. You learn quickly that a poorly held shield is an invitation to pain. As the hours grind on, exhaustion sets in. Your legs tremble, your breath comes in ragged gasps. Yet the drill master shows no mercy. You think the enemy will tire first, he shouts. You think the crowd cares if you're weary? Fight through it, or die. The final drill of the day is the most brutal. The pell, a tall wooden post meant to simulate an opponent. You are ordered to strike it repeatedly, overhead, side cuts, thrusts, without pause. Each blow sends shockwaves through your arms. The wood does not yield, neither does the drill master. Harder, faster, he roars. Strike as though your life depends upon it, because it does. By the time the sun dips low, you are scarcely able to lift your sword. Blisters weep blood. Your tunic clings to your sweat-drenched body. Yet you stand in ranks once more as the drill master surveys you. Some of you may live to fight in the arena, he says. Most of you will not. Remember this, the crowd does not cheer for the timid. They cheer for blood. Learn to give it to them, or be the one bleeding. With that grim benediction, you are dismissed. Staggering, you return to your cell. The corridor is eerily quiet. The day has left even the bravest men broken with fatigue. You collapse onto your pallet, too weary to care about the filth that clings to your skin. Sleep is no kinder tonight than it was before. Bruises throb, muscles cramp. You shift restlessly, haunted by visions of the arena. You've seen the amphitheatre from a distance, a towering colossus of stone and sand. Soon you will stand within its pit, beneath the gaze of thousands. The thought coils in your stomach like a serpent. Dawn comes all too soon. Again the key turns in the lock. Again the guard's voice shatters the fragile peace. You rise, body stiff, and shuffle toward the yard. Another day of the same torment awaits. This is your life now, a ceaseless cycle of sweat, pain, and fear. You are being forged into a weapon, but whether you will survive long enough to wield it remains to be seen. And as the whip cracks once more in the morning light, you know this much is certain. In the ludus, mercy is as rare as wine. It is one thing to learn how to fight. It is quite another to learn how to die properly. In the ludus, both are equally important. You would think that in a school designed to turn men into living weapons, the instructors would focus solely on helping you survive. And they do, up to a point. But the grim reality is that no matter how skilled you become, no matter how strong or fast, there will come a day when some other man or beast bests you. On that day, you must face death with a certain flair. No one wants to see a gladiator blubbering and begging on the sand. They want to see courage, defiance, and perhaps even a touch of nobility, especially if you're about to be skewered like a roast pig. The first time the drill master says the words, "learn to die," you think you've misheard. But no, he means exactly what he says. After a brutal morning spent hacking at the pell until your arms turn to jelly, you and the others are summoned to the central yard. A wooden platform has been erected there, low and circular, an imitation of the raised stage in the amphitheatre. The drill master, his scarred face betraying neither warmth nor malice, simply weary professionalism, strides onto the platform. In his hand is a rudess, the same type of wooden training sword you've grown both to hate and to respect. You've learned to strike, he says, voice carrying easily across the yard. You've learned to block. You've learned to endure. Now you must learn to die. A ripple of uneasy glances passes through your ranks. You're all thinking the same thing. We came here to survive, not to rehearse our deaths. But no one speaks. You know better than to question an order in this place. The drill master beckons one of the veteran fighters forward, a Gaul with a jagged scar across his cheek and arms corded with muscle. The man mounts the platform with casual ease, as though walking to a tavern stage, not to a mock execution. Watch, the drill master commands, and remember, what follows is equal parts theatre and grim ritual. The Gaul assumes a combat stance, then feigns receiving a fatal blow to the side. He staggers, dropping to one knee, his expression a carefully controlled mix of pain and defiance. Slowly he raises the index finger of his left hand, the ad digitum gesture, signalling submission and pleading for mercy. In a real arena, this moment would be met with roaring approval or baying cries for blood from the crowd. The editor of the games, seated in his box, would render the final judgment. Thumbs up and you live, thumbs down and you die. Here, the drill master plays both judge and crowd. He gives a curt nod, and the Gaul collapses fully to the sand, eyes closing, body relaxing into the final stillness of death. Again, the drill master says. The Gaul repeats the performance, this time showing what happens when no mercy is granted. Instead of raising the finger, he staggers to his feet one last time, defiant to the end, then falls in a dramatic sprawl, as if slain outright. The lesson is clear. Not only must you fight well, you must also know how to fall. The crowd expects a show. They want blood, yes, but also poetry in motion. A gladiator who dies with grace and defiance may be remembered. One who dies whimpering will be forgotten, or worse, scorned. Now it is your turn. You ascend the platform with leaden feet, your heart hammering as though this mock death might be real. The drill master instructs you to imagine a mortal wound. Feel the blade, he says. Feel your strength leaving you, then die well. It feels absurd at first. You stagger and clutch your side in what you hope looks like pain, then sink to your knees, hesitating before raising your finger. Too slow. A crack across your back from the staff corrects that. Faster, the drill master snaps. You will not have the luxury of thinking when you bleed for real. You try again and again. With each repetition, the act becomes less awkward. You learn to fall in a way that will not break your bones but still looks convincing. You practice gasping convincingly, not flopping about like a dying fish. You master the subtle art of keeping one eye half open to judge the crowd's reaction while pretending to be at death's door. There is a grim humour in it all, though no one dares laugh. You catch glimpses of your fellow trainees exaggerating their stumbles or perfecting a stoic, statuesque death pose. One man, a wiry Greek, manages to fall so elegantly that even the veterans murmur approval. Perhaps you'll make a fine corpse one day, a grizzled veteran quips. The Greek grins faintly. It is the first smile you've seen in days. Of course, not every death in the arena is planned. Sometimes a blade finds its mark unexpectedly, and the only performance is the involuntary twitching of limbs as life slips away. But the drill master insists that even in the chaos of battle, you must remember your role. A good death may earn the editor's mercy. A poor one seals your fate. In between these morbid rehearsals, your combat training continues. The rudis is gradually replaced with real steel, first dulled, then sharpened. You're assigned a gladiator type based on your physique and fighting style. The options are many, each with its own distinct flair. If you are tall and broad, you may become a mamilo, wielding a heavy shield and short sword, your head encased in a gleaming helmet. If you are agile and wiry, you might train as a retiarius, armed with trident and net, darting about like a fisherman gone mad. Others become secutores or hoplomachy, each type designed to create varied and thrilling matches. You, as it happens, are chosen as a secutor, a hunter of the net fighters. Your armour is designed to allow pursuit, your helmet smooth and rounded to deflect the Retiarius's trident. It is a role requiring relentless aggression and stamina, neither of which comes naturally to you. But here, you have no say. You are shaped according to the whims of the Lanista and the entertainment needs of the arena. The first time you spar with a Retiarius is a humbling affair. The net, wielded with surprising skill, tangles your legs and sends you sprawling. The trident's blunted tines thump your chest and ribs with bruising force. You rise, gasping, only to be caught again. The drillmaster watches impassively. Better to learn this lesson here, he says, than when the trident is real. You train relentlessly, bruises multiplying with each passing day. The net becomes less mysterious. You learn to cut it away, to close the distance before the Retiarius can strike. You spar against other secutores, refining your footwork, mastering the brutal rhythm of attack and guard. Yet always, the lessons on dying return. You're reminded constantly, one slip, one missed block, and all your training will end in a final public performance of the most permanent kind. At night, back in your cell, you sometimes wonder at the strange transformation overtaking you. Weeks ago, you were a prisoner, uncertain even how to grip a sword. Now you move with the weary grace of a predator. Your muscles harden, your reflexes sharpen. You think less about survival and more about the next blow, the next feint, the next moment of spectacle. It is a kind of madness, this world of the gladiator. Men cheer for your pain, wager on your suffering, revel in your blood. And here you are, being trained not only to feed their appetites, but to do so with artistry. You lie on the straw, listening to the snores and coughs of your fellow captives. Somewhere in the distance, a lyre plays a mournful tune. Perhaps a wealthy Roman entertains his guests even now, speaking of the new batch of fighters soon to grace the sands. You close your eyes, picturing the arena once more, but not the structure. You know its towering walls and iron gates well enough by now. No, you imagine the faces, the eager crowd, the calculating editor, the pitiless eyes of your opponent. And in that imagined space, you rehearse the final act, the slow collapse, the raised finger, the resolute stare. If fate decrees that your moment will come, you will meet it with grim dignity. Because here, in the shadow of Rome's greatest theatre of blood, even death must be performed to perfection. You soon discover that the worst enemy in the ludus is not the drillmaster's staff, the blisters blooming on your palms, or even the certainty of future bloodshed. No, the cruelest torment is found in the friendships you cannot help but form. It happened slowly at first. When you first arrived, gaunt and bruised from captivity in the market, the other gladiators barely acknowledged you. They had seen too many wide-eyed newcomers to waste kindness on one more dead man walking. Yet, as the days grind on and you survive each round of training, something shifts. You begin to share space in the yard with the same cluster of men. You spar against them, fall beside them, rise with them again. You sweat and bleed on the same stretch of sand, stumble to the same troughs for water, curse beneath your breath during endless drills. And somewhere in that weary rhythm, grudging nods turn into brief words, words into conversation, into a strange and fragile form of camaraderie. There is Marcus, an ex-legionary, whose towering frame earned him a Mamillo's shield and gladius. He speaks little of his past, but fights with terrifying efficiency, as though every opponent were a ghost from some long-forgotten battlefield. There is Foe, the wiry Greek, who somehow manages to turn even the bleakest drills into a chance for sardonic wit. At least in the arena, he quips one sweltering afternoon, the crowd will be too loud to hear the drill master shout. There is Varro, a Gaul with a booming laugh and a fondness for dice games, though his luck at them seems inversely proportional to his skill with a blade. And then there is you, still a newcomer in many ways, still learning the grim choreography of combat and death, yet no longer entirely alone. The bonds form not because you seek them out, but because the alternative is unthinkable. In this place of iron and blood, a man without allies is a man already half dead. You may not trust these men fully. Trust here is a fragile coin, but you learn to value their presence. A nod from Marcus across the yard, a muttered joke from Foe as the sun beats down, a shared loaf of coarse bread from Varro when rations run thin. Small moments, but they matter. Of course, the unspoken truth shadows every word and gesture. At any time, the editor of the games or the whims of the Lanista might decide that you and Marcus, or Foe or Varro, will face each other beneath the roar of the crowd. And when that day comes, all camaraderie must fall away beneath the cold weight of survival. You tell yourself you will be ready if that day comes. You tell yourself it is better not to grow too close. Yet the heart rarely heeds such logic. Shared hardship breeds a kind of brotherhood that defies reason. The ludus itself encourages these uneasy bonds, though not out of kindness. The Lanista knows that a fighter who trains in complete isolation becomes brittle, prone to despair. A man who fights for something, even the faint kinship of his fellows, fights harder. And so, during rare hours of rest, you are allowed to mingle in the courtyard, to sit by the brazier when the chill creeps in, to speak in low tones beneath the gaze of the guards. It is during one such evening that you find yourself seated with Marcus, Foe, and Varro, the four of you passing a battered jug of watered wine between weary hands. The day's drills have left your bodies aching, but for a brief moment, the sting of the lash and the press of the shield are distant memories. "You fight well," Marcus says quietly, staring into the flickering flames. "Better than when you first came." You nod, unsure whether to feel pride or dread at the compliment. Foe smirks. "At this rate, they'll have him in the arena by next moon. We should start betting." Varro laughs, the sound rolling across the courtyard like distant thunder. "I will wager 5 denarii he survives his first bout, and another 5 he spends the winnings on better wine than this." You chuckle along with them, though an iron knot tightens in your gut. The arena. Your first fight. The thought has haunted your nights more than you care to admit. To hear it spoken of so casually is both comforting and terrifying. As the evening wears on, the conversation drifts from tales of distant lands to rumours of an upcoming festival where particularly grand games are planned. You learn that Foe once studied rhetoric before fate delivered him here, that Varro has a wife and son in a village far beyond the reach of Rome's legions, that Marcus fought in Germania and saw things no man should see, and you speak little of your past. It is easier that way. The manual matters less with each passing day. Yet even as laughter flickers like the firelight, the shadow remains. Each of you knows that one day, perhaps sooner than any of you wish, you may be ordered to draw steel against one another. And when that moment comes, there will be no time for hesitation, no space for mercy. The first time you witness this bitter truth is during a paired sparring match arranged for the Lanista's amusement. The fighters called are Antonius and Gaius, 2 men who have trained side by side for nearly a year, their friendship evident to all. They step into the sand with grim faces, offering each other a brief clasp of forearms before the signal is given. What follows is brutal and swift. There is no room for restraint. The drill master watches closely, as does the Lanista from his shaded seat. Blades flash, shields crash. Gaius gains the advantage with a sharp thrust to Antonius's thigh. Blood spatters the sand. The drill master calls a halt and healers rush in, yet the damage is done, not only to Antonius's flesh, but to the bond between the 2 men. That night, the courtyard is quieter than usual. Even Foe offers no quips. The reality of your life is clearer than ever. You may drink with a man one evening and be expected to spill his blood the next, and yet the friendships persist. You need them, even knowing the risk. Without them, the grind of the ludus would hollow you out from within. It is the knowing glance from Marcus when the drill master's gaze lingers too long, the whispered advice from Foe, the rough hand of Varro hauling you to your feet after a bruising fall. You give such aid in return, though part of you wonders if each small kindness is a seed of future regret. One particularly sweltering afternoon, as you and Foe rest between rounds of net and trident drills, He leans close and murmurs, "When the time comes, if it comes, strike clean." No hesitation. That is the only mercy we can offer. You nod, throat tight. It is a grim pact, unspoken yet understood among all who wear the Gladiator's harness. Fight as though your life depends on it, because it does, and when the blade must fall upon a friend, make it swift. As the days turn to weeks, the bonds deepen despite your efforts to remain detached. Perhaps it is human nature, refusing to be entirely crushed by the cold machinery of the games. Or perhaps it is simple madness, clinging to the illusion of connection in a world designed to strip it away. In the quieter moments, you sometimes catch yourself imagining a different life, one where you might have known these men as comrades in a legion, or merchants sharing wine in a bustling tavern, not as fellow instruments of death. But such thoughts are dangerous. You push them aside. One morning, a new list is posted outside the drill master's quarters, the roster for the next games. Your name, or the one assigned to you, is on it, and just below it, you see the name of one of your friends. The time for rehearsals is over. The arena awaits.